3 new player classes, a variety of generation tools, new house rules, a pirate poker game, a trio of new adventures, and lots more are all packed within Pirate Borg Down Among the Dead from Limithron, and I'll share my review right after this. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I will be sharing my review of Pirate Borg Down Among the Dead from Limithron. This is written and illustrated by Luke Stratton, and the 146-page A5-sized hardcover with PDF is available now. It carries an MSRP of $39.99. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got Down Among the Dead for Pirate Borg. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, the fine crew over at Limithron were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of this A5-sized hardcover, but I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. And then lastly, there are 3 new adventures as well as a new adventure site, which are contained within. So if you're a player and maybe your game master has already picked up Down Among the Dead, maybe they just haven't started running it yet, maybe they're talking about picking this up, keep in mind some light spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. Of course, if your game master has been kicking around picking up Down Among the Dead, by all means, let them know about this review. That way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. First thing we'll do is take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life, so let's give credit where credit is due. If you are not overly familiar with Pirate Borg, first of all, I'd be curious why you'd be watching this review, right? Because this is for a supplement for Pirate Borg, but just in case, Pirate Borg is an old school styled fantasy role-playing game. It is a dark fantasy role-playing game, and it has a pirate theme. Now, this is built upon the core mechanics of Borg, and I say it all the time, Pirate Borg is my absolute favorite role-playing game, which is built upon that rule system, which is very, very OSR. So what's in this book? Let's talk about that. First of all, we've got a trio of new player classes. We've got the Antiquarian, the Deep One, and the Unlocked Soul. And one of the cool things about Pirate Borg is one character from a class is not going to be just like another character from that same class, especially when they're starting out, because we will have various different tables that you can roll on to make that particular character of that class unique. Very, very nicely done. And I think that is one of the things I really dig most about the character creation of Pirate Borg, because it's very quick. You get to the point right away, and each of the various different characters from the same class should be a little bit different. So we've got the trio of new classes here. We also have some new skills that you can utilize. And another truly interesting aspect about Pirate Borg as a whole is how modular it is. With the various different supplements that have come out for Pirate Borg, there's some really fantastic stuff that's been released already, and which is included in Down Among the Dead, but you don't have to utilize all of it. You can pick and choose what best fits your game table. And I love that. You're never shackled to any particular rule options that are released for Pirate Borg. This book itself is just chock full of really interesting generation tools, which are available to the players and game master. So as an example here, this is what is your motivation? What is a player character's motivation or an important NPC's motivation? We have a coral reef generator, a flag generator, really, really fun stuff here. Our Dark Caribbean or Caribbean Island generator. Now, if you're not familiar with the Dark Caribbean, it is a fantasy setting. It's a dark fantasy setting. Of course, it is pirate themed and it's got undead. But there's way more going on to the proceedings than just, oh, pirates and zombies. There's a very Lovecraftian vibe to a lot of the proceedings here and really, really cool stuff. So we're going to get into new house rules. We've got a fresh new adventure site. We have the locker, a few pages devoted to the locker. The locker's sort of a purgatory place. So a lot of this supplement is devoted to the undead and encounters with the undead. So we also have 3 new adventures here as well. They're all really good. And I have to say, my favorite involves chasing down a vampire. We have a new poker game that can be utilized as a game inside the game. So we have Three-Eyed Parrot. I swear, every time I receive something for Pirate Borg, I'm just blown away by the sheer level of creativity which is involved in every single release. And it's really interesting too, because once again, as I pointed out, this is an old school styled role-playing game. So as far as the adventures go, we have key locations telling us, okay, what's there, but we don't necessarily have storylines or plot lines that need to be followed for your players to proceed throughout the adventure. Now, are there clues that they'll find leading them to different places? Of course, but loads and loads of emergent play taking place in your Pirate Borg adventures. So just kind of giving you a quick peek at the adventures, which will wrap up the book. And I also have to say, these are very, very meaty adventures. These are not simply 1 or 2 session tales for you to break out. You're going to get a lot of gameplay out of these 3 adventures, as well as that adventure site. So that is a peek inside Down Among the Dead for Pirate Borg from Limithron. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. So let's talk about the production quality, because number one, it's top notch. It's what we've come to expect from releases from Limithron. Nice, heavy paperweight. The artwork pops off the page. As a whole, the artwork itself in this book, I think, is probably my favorite out of any of the Pirate Borg releases. And that's really saying something. And I should also point out, if you're leery about role-playing games that are built off of Borg, and you're not really experienced with Pirate Borg, I understand the leeriness, because that whole art punk role-playing game movement, sometimes the art outweighs the gaming content. That is never the case with Pirate Borg. Something else I should also mention as far as layout goes, I've never had a problem being able to comprehend anything on a page in a Pirate Borg release. I can't say the same for other games that are built on Borg, because once again, the artwork kind of outweighs the gaming content. Never a problem with Pirate Borg. And of course, not a problem here with Down Among the Dead. As far as the content of the book, this is absolutely packed with goodies. Got a trio of new classes. Very, very interesting. I will point out, I have not studied the classes, so I can't tell you how well balanced they are. Keep in mind, this is an old school themed role playing game, so balance among character classes isn't really a big deal. But I will say the classes fit in very, very nicely with what's come before. We've got a variety of various different generation tools, we've got new house rules. I'm always amazed by just how much creativity tends to be packed into a Limithron release. It's amazing. In fact, I should really point this out too, that as far as everything I've ever had an opportunity to review from Limithron, I always dig how I can really see the love of the hobby at the forefront of these releases. Now, I mean, it's always because Limithron wants to get some cool stuff in your hands because they're excited about it. They want you to play it. I never have the feeling like anything for Pirate Borg is kind of like a money grab. I never had an impression like that. And you know what? The state of the hobby we have nowadays, that's kind of saying something for companies out there. Now, I'm not saying Limithron's the only one, but it is very cool that everything I've ever encountered for Pirate Borg always feels like the creators, like Luke Stratton, are just really excited for you to be able to play it, as opposed to being excited about putting your money in their pockets. As far as the adventures, got lots and lots of gaming involved with those. We're not talking about just 1 or 2 session adventures. You're going to get a lot of gameplay out of those 3 tales. Plus, we also have a cool adventure location. And then we have the addition of the locker. We've got this kind of purgatory-ish area that is going to unlock a lot of cool adventuring for players and game masters out there. So I have got to say that the streak continues for fantastic releases for Pirate Borg from Limithron. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Pirate Borg Down Among the Dead a 10 out of 10. Yep, they did it again. Another 10 out of 10. Very, very well done. All right, that is it for this time out. If you enjoyed the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG. And to do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of most of those sales as a commission. And all those commissions really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. And of course, you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find all of that down in the show notes. Also in the show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, if you like this video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. And if you ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications, because YouTube is supposed to not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, they're also supposed to inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.